All right, let's begin our Oscoda Township regular board meeting for May 26, 2020. Let us begin with roll call.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Here.
Mr. Gaskey,
Here.
Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Nordine here, Mr. Byer,
Here.
Mr. Weed.
Here. For agenda additions, do we have anything?
I sent an email out this afternoon. I wanted to have a discussion about the reimbursement for the furniture. I just wanted to get the board's thoughts before I paid the bill.
Okay, we can put that under other number 6.
Thank you.
Anything else for the agenda? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the addition.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Gaskey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion has passed. Consent agenda, anything regarding the meeting minutes for May 11th? Okay, anything regarding the payment of bills? Ms. Mcguire, do you have the totals for that?
I do have the totals for that. For the sorry about that. $28,337.04 and $6,073.99.
Okay, and that does not include the one for the EIC furniture, right?
Correct.
Any comments regarding that?
I apologize for it not being a part of the agenda. Jane sent it right at 10 o'clock, but Tammy didn't get it till later. There must have been something going on with the internet or something.
Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes, Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Subcommittee reports and project updates. First one is the operating report from F&V.
All right, so this is the 2019 operating report, and we have Mr. Doug Moen from F&V on the line tonight, and he is joining us via video as well. So basically, what's been compiled are some of the operating stats for 2019, and then the second is the first quarter or January through March 2020 operating report. So I'm going to let Doug introduce that and give you a little bit of an overview. Doug, you're muted right now. We got to unmute you.
I had him unmuted.
Doug, in the bottom left, you will see, there he goes.
Yeah. How are you doing this evening?
Excellent.
Good.
That's good. This is just an overview of last year, operation reports. It just gives a summary of, not every work order in every scenario we went out. It just gives you an overall view. We can go line by line. But if you look to 2019 work order service calls, it gives a summary of consults, property checks, turn on, turn offs, just work orders, service tags. It's we go through quite a lot of work. But the work orders total 2,153 total work orders. And the misdigs were 1,013. Overall total between work orders and misdigs is 3,166. But what's on here is, as far as lift stations aren't on here, those are different. That's just a routine, the 23 lift stations we take care of. But yeah, anybody have any questions on us?
Yeah, I do. I guess the board adopted new policies for payment for water and sewer in October of 2019. What is your perspective on, have those new policies been helpful? I noticed the shutoffs seem to have increased the number. And I was just wondering, and it might be the utility billing clerk might have a better insight or on it as well, but in your view, in your experience, has the new policies that we adopted been helpful or effective?
Yes. It's definitely a time saver because even the door tags itself are on the new policy.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't, let's see how many door tags. We're service door tags. Non-payment door tags, we had in January 60 of them, February 45, March 45, April 29, August 58. It takes a lot of time. I mean, in the utility billing, as far as producing them, handing them out to the guys and driving to each house and hanging a door tag, it's been really beneficial and time saving not having to do that. But people are coming around though. And then this hit, COVID-19, and now people, they aren't getting the water shut off, but she explains to them that all the monies will be owed and fees and all that stuff associated with it at the end of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, Doug, do you have do you have a recall of 2018
No.
at all? Because that's over 200 work orders a month.
Yeah.
How's that compared to 2018? You have any idea?
No. I could look into it for you. That's not a problem.
That'd be interesting to see if it went up or down.
Well, we do have 2020 here. Let's see what how it, you're talking overall work orders?
Yeah.
The total work orders. January, it's 166. January of 2020. In January of 19, 154. February in 2020 is 134, and there's 167 in 19. And 79 in March, and 160. So they're pretty comparable, but there's going to be in misdigs. As far as the work orders, you see all the stuff it's representing though, as far as work orders. A lot of them are going to be redundant. Turn-ons, turn-offs, final reads, rereads. touchpad errors, curb stop repairs. Those sort of things don't change a whole lot. In the future, they will, as far as when the radio read gets implemented, then it'll be so you'd like to see 2018?
No, I just wanted to some comparisons to see if these new procedures are helping or not.
Well, the new procedures are helping save time, and time when we can be focusing on other repairs to do.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, you know.
Right.
And that's all what to do with the work orders. It boils down to how many you got out and how many you got to get done and so forth. But no, I have a little bit there to go by, no problem.
Yeah, okay. Because actually, we don't produce work orders on every single thing we do. Probably should be doing it more and more lately, but yeah, if you want to get some comparisons, that's fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, Doug, this is Bill Palmer. I just wanted to say that I've known for a long time that you guys do a lot of good work for us, but I think these annual reports where we actually see all of the calls, and especially all the emergency calls that you guys go on and take care of, especially, you know, primarily in the winter time, but really all year long. I think these reviews are good for us to look at to realize just how much work you're doing for us. And I, for one, want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's we're going to just try to get a little better and better in, you know, as far as my position, as far as refine these. You know, we were late getting you the 2019, and we did a quarterly in 2020. Forward, there's really no excuse, but I want to get monthly reports out, and they'll be a lot shorter, a lot easier to go through and look at, but we're going to have the work totals graduated, just January, February, March. The next one will be April, May, June, so forth, but you'll see the history behind them. So yeah, it's real good data to keep a log of.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now the March 2020 we had the two operating reports, January through March operating report. So the first two from F&V. Did you have something specific for that, January through March? Or did you already cover it, Doug?
I pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Something specific.
All right. I just want to make sure because it was on the report for F&V's on here twice. So.
Yeah. Well, I just sort of threw it in there with the comparisons.
Okay.
Instead of the 2018, we did have some 2020 comparisons, January, February, and March. But a lot of times people, you know, they might view it as a big task or whatever, and I consider it routine. So if you guys have any questions on something, I'll be more than happy to elaborate.
All right. Thanks. Okay. The rinse station at Ratliff Park.
All right. Well, I don't want to steal all of Mr. Palmer's thunder here. Bill, do you want to give an update on the rinse station there at Ratliff Park?
Yeah, well, it's been installed, and I believe Mr. Schaefer has received the check for $2,070 from Vila, and so we should be good to go for the summer for all of our swimmers out there to be able to rinse off, get out of the foam. Get the foam off that's out there. And again, I'd like to thank Vila for their donation to make this happen.
Yeah, I really appreciate Bella taking that on. A few weeks ago, DEQ notified us that they were trying to get us a rinse station, but with everything going on with COVID, that they just weren't going to have the money for it, so it just wasn't going to happen. So Bella took care of it, and it's already installed, so that's wonderful. And then today, Eagle called me and said they actually did get the money for it. They got authorized the money for it today. So they were ready to ship us a rinse station. But there's a benefit to that, because I said that since we already had it installed, then hold on, we still got people coming in the meeting. Then in talking with Eagle about it, determined that having a second rinse station down there would be beneficial. And Eagle had said that they would pay for a portion or all of the installation costs with it. Because the one that we installed is up by the bathhouse, and we could put another one more towards Warrior Pavilion. I talked with Bill Hamlin about that today, if we had a location for that, and he came up with the area next to Warrior Pavilion. So I think having those options for the people are going to be very beneficial, especially when they're just coming off the boat ramp or whether they're coming off the beach. Any comments regarding that?
Jamie says she's muted.
I think if you mute yourself, it's not going to let you unmute. So there, that should work.
Jamie, you there?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, oh, yeah, I missed that notice. It's way over there. All right, any comments regarding the rinse stations? Okay, the County Park and Rec meeting held last Friday. They had a online meeting last Friday. Fred Lewis and I made our public comments regarding about the bike path. That I talked about how the millage was advertised to help out with the bike path. And I talked about how the county are the ones who actually talked us into being a part of the bike path project. And Fred Lewis was discussing with their budget what were their plans and all that. Based on what I got out of that, they did not have budgeted plans for the bike path. They did talk about purchasing a piece of land at the old quarry in Alabaster, 4,000 feet of frontage for $2.5 million, most of that being paid for by grant. And they talked about purchasing tables and accessories at the piece of land they bought by Van Etten Dam. So, yeah, I'm having concerns about the County Park and Rec utilizing those funds for what they had said they were going to. Any questions regarding county's Park and Rec?
Yes, Jim here.
Yes.
Other than the tables and stuff you just mentioned, has the county done anything else with their Van Etten Lake Dam property?
Not that
I
I know.
haven't been down there, so.
I have not seen any work being done on that land.
Okay. But the county is going to provide some furniture, outdoor furniture for that?
Yes.
Is that right? Tables?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I did not know. I didn't know there was a county park and rec committee, because the county, other than what we just talking about now, they don't have any parks. You know, that's it. You know, they bought the land and then haven't, according to your information, haven't done anything with it yet. But they do have a committee called Parks and Rec. Okay.
Yes, and I can't remember how many people are on that board. Is that 9 or 11 people? It's a pretty large board.
That whole project by the dam was Jeff Matthews' idea, and he was pursuing that. And then when he exited from the board, I think I didn't even know that they went ahead with purchasing it. I guess they have, but I think that's a large part of the reason why nothing has been done, because the ramrod for the whole idea is not on the county commission anymore. So.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right with that.
Okay.
Every so many years, our county has a gypsy moth problem, and we're coming up on that time frame. A survey was done through biologists that showed that Plainfield Township has the largest gypsy moth egg population right now in the county. There's very few in the southern part of the county. So it was proposed from Plainfield Township to the county that the funds that are used for that are focused on Plainfield Township to try and eliminate the greatest threat. Hold on, we still got people popping in another meeting here. That's why I keep stopping. So the proposal was made to the county, and several municipalities had signed off on approving that their portions of gypsy moth funds be used to focus on Plainfield Township. It was going to be on our agenda to seek board approval for that also, but J. O'Farrell did not want that to happen, and Rob Hubel later came and said not to bring it up to them at the county. It's a dead issue. So apparently, and we're now already past the point of being able to schedule getting the people out there to take care of the gypsy moth eggs in Plainfield. So I hope this doesn't turn out to be a big issue for our county this go around.
Do you know of other townships that were willing to give all or a portion of their monies to Plainfield to fight this battle?
Asable was one of them. I believe the Tawases did. I don't remember clearly what all the names were. Fred Lewis has the list of them. He had resolutions from them.
But J. O'Farrell put the kibosh to it, hey?
Correct.
He doesn't like the north or northeast or northwest portion of the county for some reason. I don't.
Yeah, and my concern with that is he's saying he's representing his district. The problem is his votes affect the entire county, and all those county commissioners are actually representing the entire county, not just their districts, and they need to focus on county unity rather than dividing it up and having
right.
Rather than focusing on they need to be focusing on the big picture.
Yep.
Yeah, because our county from Footsite West is nothing but Plainfield Township. Same type of trees and everything.
Yeah.
And last time this happened, this area was devastated for quite a few years as far as fruit-bearing trees, especially the oaks.
There was quite the to-do today on Facebook regarding Old Orchard Park. Old Orchard Park had made a notice this morning. That notice was rather vague by the time I caught it. And then by the time I got a hold of somebody about it, there were already over 100 posts on it regarding the opening plans. So a new post was made this afternoon that had more clarity to it, along with posting what that plan, what that opening plan is. There were a lot of people who were concerned that they're allowing landscapers. There's other parks that are opening, but in reading the governor's orders, having gone through legal review, not only at our local level, but legal reviews at higher state levels, the governor had made it very clear that government employees were to not work unless they performed essential services that pertain to the sustainment of life or the protection of property. So we had complied with that as we're supposed to do as a municipality, because in Michigan law, it states that a municipality can't do anything unless the state allows it. So according to her orders, including the most recent ones, they're in there that we can resume having our employees back come the 29th, unless something were to get extended, which of course we don't know what's going to happen because this is all just day by day. But at this point, we can have the employees back by the 29th who can then work on getting the park prepared for the campers to come in, because these were government employees. Now, whether orders allowed private campgrounds to work or whatever, but your generality through her order is that overnight stays were not allowed unless for anywhere, unless it was pertaining to the sustainment of life or to support businesses that were in the sustainment of life. So I hope that got cleared up today or this evening. But there are people out there saying that we broke our contract with them and all that. No, we are doing what we are supposed to do according to how the state has directed us to do it. If we were a privately owned park, I don't know, maybe that might have been different. But since it's a government owned, it's owned by consumers, regulated by FERC, operated by a municipality who's regulated by the state. And that's just the conundrum that we are in. So I want to make everybody aware that we're quite a few campers upset, and I had to spend most of my day dealing with campers instead of dealing with infrastructure. Are there any comments regarding that?
It seems to me that in one of the orders, the order referenced a resumed activity, and I thought possibly, and it referenced outdoor work that's usually performed outdoors. The way I read it, I thought we could get them back to work, but I guess if we're going to be going back to work Friday, which also I am reading the order a little differently. I guess what I'm coming to is I'm perhaps reading these orders in a way other than they're intended, or I don't know, but at this point, I guess I have to rely on the legal review. If we're consulting with the attorney and he's given clear direction, that's his role, and I'm going to rely on that because they've been quite confusing, at least recently to me, and the way I'm reading them is, I guess, different than it's all shaking out. So I'm glad to hear the attorney's been consulted and has provided some direction.
Yeah, not only has our attorney been consulted, but he's been consulting higher level legal reviews at the state too, to confirm that the path we are following is what is the proper and accepted path.
Okay. You referenced going back to work Friday employees, which I'm personally, that's the sooner we can get back to work and provide services, the better for me. That's my desire. I also want to stay in line with the orders, and the way I'd been reading them, I thought it had been extended till the 12th. But if the lawyer, through his review and his reference up the chain, is saying that it's sooner, then that fits with my desire, and I'm pleased that we can do it safely and legally. But I'm surprised to hear that.
her extension deals with more, it's on a far more limited basis as to what's closed. The orders that we fall under are not in her list of orders that are extended to June 12th. But who knows? We keep having other ones that executive orders that keep popping up on Thursdays and Fridays. But yeah, at this time, workers come in Friday, start getting that park prepped. And then hopefully within 24 days after that, the park can open.
So that's the same date that we had referenced in the May 11th meeting, correct?
Correct.
What is that, June
22nd, I believe.
2nd? That's what I recalled.
Hey, Aaron, if we can excel the preparation, can we open sooner?
Yes. I think that's already an accelerated schedule,
Okay.
but they're going to be out there working as hard as they can. Let me unmute Al here. Al Absidis, are you there?
I am
There-
here.
There you go. What about the well testing?
We've had to push that back because they have not gotten to get us a plan yet. However, we're still in line with about what we have written down and given to the board. Trying to get that tested this week if we can. We're turning on the water right now to see if we had any leaks in the system, which we did when they put our electric in, and some of the lines got into the ground. We cut a couple of the lines, so they've been repaired. Gary's been kind of keeping an eye on them. So if we can keep that in order, we can get our testing. Probably the next phase we can get done with.
Okay. And we can't open for sure until that water testing is done.
Correct.
And it's the county who does that?
The district health department does that.
Okay.
Does the testing for us. After we get it turned on, I think I'd written it down in the orders that we were going to do it. But after you get it turned on, after we check for leaks, after we know the system will stay charged, it gets chlorinated. After it gets chlorinated, it sits in the line for 24 hours. That line gets discharged, and we go back 24 hours, test it. Then they come in and test it again. So that usually takes about, from chlorination to the end of testing, and it's usually, depending on the state, about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Al, this is Jim.
Jim.
How you doing? When all this testing gets done and the proper waiting times, do you have to report the findings to consumers, or they're out of the loop? What?
No. As soon as I get the okay, which is a letter from, or usually an email from the district health department, the waters will be good to go. Okay. We have other issues going on in the park right now besides the water. We haven't anybody out there to pick up the trees and clean up the debris. It's a mess.
Huh. Wind damage from the winter or what?
Just recently, yeah, it was the wind damage.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Al? All right. Thank you, Al.
You're welcome.
All right. We do have public comment at the end of this meeting. We can address it then, but no, when the park opens, it will be open for everybody. For the consumers' dams, if there were any concerns regarding the condition of the dams, we did receive an email today regarding consumers-owned dams, because the ones that broke down state were not owned by consumers. And she has on here the Consumers Energy owns 13 dams. Each one is performing well and safely. They're being closely monitored by their hydro team. All dams are licensed by the FERC, well maintained to all safety regulations, which include annual FERC dam safety inspections and monthly dike inspections. The dams receive continuous upgrades for structural integrity and to enhance safety. Further, risk designation for a dam such as high hazard is not based on the integrity of the dam or the likelihood of failure. It's based on the effects of the surrounding area and communities if a failure were to occur at the facility. Factors that influence those effects include height of dams, volumes of water. So there's the meaning of high hazard. High hazard is not the condition, but the effects of the surrounding area if there were a failure. Any questions on that? All right. Then we go on to the updated charter township reopening procedures. So in there we have everything worked to conform with the executive orders, and what little we've been able to get out of MIOSHA, which I think they're in the process of developing something. So this may have to change when they change things.
Is the plan for this document to replace the existing virus precautions document or supplement?
This is to supplement, and then the existing one, as long as nothing's extended, the existing one should end Thursday night.
Okay.
So this one, this document would for government restart, this one would take effect immediately. So both documents would be in play for a few days. Friday, the previous one should end, and then this one is the one that's in effect. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do we need to act to rescind or deactivate the existing document?
We can, if the board chooses so.
My only question is just for clarity's sake for employees who are coming back, to work for the first time in months so it's clear to them, which ones are active, which ones aren't, which ones they have to abide by and all that.
Okay.
Aaron, I did have a few questions about the new document.
Okay.
On the first page, it's about halfway down the page, it speaks about using sick time or the Emergency Sick Leave Act bank if we have it, if it's still available. We used to only utilize that sick bank. It was for like terminal ill people or really, cancer treatments, those type of things. So I didn't know if we wanted to, obviously if somebody was on a ventilator and was hospitalized, those type of things. But I didn't know if we should lump it in there with just the 3-day thing.
is that reference in the document there to the Emergency Sick Leave Act Bank? Is that a reference to what's known within the township as the Janet Charter Sick Bank, or is that a reference to a newly created legislative act that's recently been passed?
So there, and this is Dave, there are some specific requirements as far as FMLA that are associated with that. And the FMLA requirements, I guess, have expanded.
So that's a reference to new legislation, not the township's own sick bank.
Correct. I mean, I can shore up that wording there.
Yeah, maybe we can do that.
Let me. Sorry, I'm just taking notes.
No problem.
On the second page of 4, also right above the public facilities for reopening for June 4th, it speaks about the restroom facilities at all the township parks should not be open until the executive order allows for that. But it's not addressed in here at all about the township hall bathrooms and like a cleaning schedule or anything like that for when the employees come back to work, or if and or when we open up to the public.
So we should have janitorial maintenance come in Thursday night for cleaning, and they will just resume their
Nightly schedule?
nightly schedule. Yeah, and then all the other cleaning during the day and stuff will be by the employees.
So will there be other steps that the regular cleaning crew does on a nightly basis?
Not that I know of, because that's already a pretty good cleaning.
And township hall bathrooms will be open to the public, correct?
Yes.
Good.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't hear your question.
If the township hall bathrooms, the bathrooms located within township hall would be open to the public.
Oh, okay, yes.
I've got a couple questions. I didn't want to cut anybody off if Ms. Mcguire was still going, or.
No, I think that's it.
There's a couple references to the one I'm looking at currently is on page 2, about a third of the way down. All township vehicles shall carry a supply of hand sanitizer. This might be unspoken, but should we add in there when available? Because I think there was another reference of like there wouldn't a truck wouldn't be operated unless hand sanitizer was in the truck. I hopefully we won't run up against the problem, but there may be an occasion where we can't get our hands on some. So I just wasn't sure if we want to.
I know the police chief has secured about 4 gallons, so we got a pretty good stock to begin.
Sure. I don't know how long they'll last, how long we'll be under these things. It's just a thought. I would hate to have employees feel like they couldn't operate a vehicle if hand sanitizer wasn't available if they needed to. On page 3 of 4, just under the fire department procedures, the third sub bullet there, I think there's a typographical issue in that sentence. It's real minor. And then on page 4, that's the other procedures ongoing section. That's township wide again. It starts township wide, then goes to fire department. Then is that page 4 back to township wide?
What do you mean township wide?
Do those procedures apply to the township as a whole, township wide application? It seems
the township government.
Yeah, township operations. Yeah, it seems that it was township operations in general for the first bit, and then Oscoda Township Fire Department procedures is called out specifically.
Oh.
And then other procedures again. Is that other procedures within the fire department or back to township operations in general?
Back to township operations.
Okay. I considered or thought of maybe bumping that up above the fire department one. Just.
Yep.
Oh, and then my only other question I skipped over here on the top of page 3 was it says township board meetings will occur as regularly scheduled, but with additional provisions for accomplishment of physical distancing between township board members, staff, and the general public. And then masks shall be required of both participants and attendees. My question was, if we're able to maintain 6 feet, if the provisions, my first question was what provisions? And second question is, if we're able to maintain social distancing of 6 feet, why would we still need to utilize the masks?
Right. So we can't really enforce the wearing of masks for the general public because we don't know who can tolerate a mask and who can't. And under her orders, it's based on who can tolerate them. So yeah, as long as the distance is kept and you feel fairly safe with that, then that's fine.
Okay.
Hopefully our sneeze guards that we put up are going to help for those situations.
Okay.
I guess I had one more question too, John. Thanks. I forgot about that one. But with it right now, with it only being able to gather in groups of 10, what happens if more people want to come to the board meeting? Do we tell them they can't come in?
Yeah, we're just going to have to contend with that. Somehow have, I don't know, limited spacing. Maybe we need to set up a TV like we did during the great marijuana talk, that we have a TV in the other room for people to view, so that if we do have that many more, they can space out in that in the child book area.
Seems like a good idea to me to be prepared for that.
Have we been in contact with MICTV in regards to that too? Because obviously there's already 8 of us when we're sitting there, so only 2 other people would be able to be in the room.
No, we're allowed to have the audience in there, but as long as they're spaced apart.
Okay.
This is where, again, if we've run this past legal for an opinion, and he's very clear, then I'm okay with that, because I want to get back to work and providing services. But that's where this doesn't make sense to me, that we're able to do that, or we can open before June 12th. And again, I won't keep saying this, I promise, but I'm just struggling. I'm surprised by hearing this tonight. So I'm trying to get up to speed or reconcile it in my brain.
No, I understand. But it's a very dynamic situation. And because of the Opens Meetings Act and all that, there's some leniency allowed in some areas where in her orders it's more restrictive in others. So it's just navigating all of these obstacles to come to what we can legally do and not do. And in the case of the meetings, which June 8th should be an in-person meeting, as long as people have that distancing set up in there, then it's fine to have more than 10 people in one room for a public meeting. Now, if it was a regular meeting, like if we're just a few board members, you know, we got 3 board members, a couple engineers, a couple F&V people in on a meeting to discuss a water main project, that's a different story. Then, you know, we can't have more than 10 people. Okay, so make a few changes on that document unless anybody else has anything else regarding it. Then we have the acknowledgement of receipt document for the employees to sign regarding that. And we have the daily employee screening questionnaire. One of my questions regarding this is how long do we have to do this for, since a bunch of our orders expire soon? And we don't have clarity on that right now. I'm hoping MyOSHA will come up with that clarity soon.
I've got some questions or suggestions for starting with the daily employee entry screening questionnaire. In the paragraph under number 1, in the second line there, it says you must be both 3 symptoms free for 3 days. I think striking that 3 before symptoms or symptom free.
Excuse me, Aaron and John. Tim's muted.
Good call.
Unmuted.
You there, Tim?
Yes, thank you. I didn't mute myself, by the way, so I don't know when it became muted because I haven't touched it, just as a point. So I was trying to make a comment about the prior topic of the social distancing for the audience and the board meetings. I was asking if there was, if we were in any way violating social distancing at the board table with us sitting closer than 6 feet apart.
Good point. Yeah, we'll have to space ourselves apart.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Thank you. Under number 2, have you been in close contact with anyone who's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or has exhibited the above symptoms in the last 14 days? If yes, you are restricted from entering the building. Under number 1, I like how it says, if yes, you are restricted from entering the building. And then it says, in order to return to work, you must be, it gives the qualifications for how you return to work. I think putting that under 2 and 3 would be helpful to an employee. So like, if yes, you are restricted from entering the building, I would assume until 14 days after that contact or whatever it would be, but I think including it there like in 1. And then for 3, similarly, if yes, you're restricted from entering, I would assume then again until 3 days of being symptom free and 7 days since your symptoms first appeal kind of situation, but just for clarity's sake for the employees. And then my only other input was on the acknowledgement of receipt. It seems having a section or a question on there stating that the employee agrees to comply with the things that have been laid out, because it just says right now that they believe that what we have written complies to the best of their knowledge with executive orders and OSHA guidance and all these things. It says essentially, I've accepted, I agree that I received the information and it seems to be true, but it doesn't say the employees agree to abide by the requirements of filing these things every day or the different requirements. So it seems like an agreement to comply should be included.
All right.
And that was all my input on those two.
Will we have a, so it said that Dave would be taking care of like getting these, getting the people screened. So he'll be standing at the door when we come in at 8 o'clock?
No. Each department head is going to be handling that. They're going to handle all the employees underneath them regarding all of these documents and monitoring the employees.
I thought I said that he was doing Township Hall. No. Let's see if I can find it. So will we be, well, if that's the case, either way, will we be provided something to take their temperature with?
No, there's no requirement for us to take a temperature.
We're just going to ask them if they have a fever.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Township Hall would be the exception, the two
Yeah.
superintendent.
I just found it. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to change that.
Okay. So they can come into the building. We have them fill out the form each day.
Yes.
Okay. And turn them into Dave.
Yes.
Okay.
So just the one form each day. The first day, it'll be the...
Acknowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay, so what I have here is removing the superintendent at the door paragraph, clarification on the 3-day sick bank, move the other procedures above the fire department, and adding to the acknowledgement a agreement to comply, and then a few grammatical corrections. Do I have that right?
Yeah, my only other suggestion would be under the board, and then it was like other boards of the township, planning commission, zoning board of appeals, things of that nature. The requirement, it talks about enforcing use of a mask, or it seems to talk about enforcing a use. It says it's required. If we aren't going to enforce that, it seems like taking that out would be wise.
All right.
The only other thing I'd like to add in there is on the acknowledgement of receipt. Obviously, when I put this together, it said Executive Order 2020-91 and 92. It's number 3 in the acknowledgement of receipt. Those need to be updated with the executive orders. It would be now 99 and 100.
And if there's any other executive order changes that affect us along the way, just change the numbers on them and supply new copies to everybody.
They've changed twice since I put out the packet, so hopefully the frequency of changes slow down a little bit.
All right. Anything else with these? Okay, then I make a motion that we approve the procedures for government restart, the acknowledgement of receipt, and the daily employee entry screening questionnaire with the noted changes.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Weed,
Yes, motion's passed. I make a motion that if executive orders are not extended pertaining to our government operations, then the virus precautions dated 11 May of 2020 is rescinded on 29 May of 2020.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Weed,
Yes, motion's passed. Anybody have anything else pertaining to reopening?
No.
Okay, then on to partial payment of Team Elmer's for Phase 2 of the water main.
All right, so your packet contains an email from Rowe Professional Services Company dated the 20th of May, 2020, as well as a signed application for partial payment of $320,143.62 to Team Elmer's associated with progress made on Phase 2 of the water main extension. Board members will note that Rowe Professional Services Company provided detailed project update at the last meeting concerning Phase 2 of the water main extension. The $320,143.62 represents a 23.2% partial payment of the total project amount of $1,379,416.95, leaving a total of $1,098,075.07 remaining to be paid for the Phase 2 of the water main extension project. The partial payment to Team Elmer's requires Township Board approval.
Comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Does Rowe just pass these bills to us, or do they go over them and approve them and say, okay, it looks okay to us, here guys, pay it? Do they just hand them to us, or do they go through and approve them, check them out?
Well, what you'll see after the EJCDC, the Engineers Joint Contract Documents Committee, right? You see that where the amounts are, and then after that, the unit price of work. So that's the contractor's application. There is an on-site inspector going through that and making sure that those quantities are as well, matching up to the contractor. So they're going through the construction inspector at the first level, and then you have Dean Oparka is reviewing this documentation from the construction inspector based on what the contractor is submitting. So both the on-site inspector and Dean Oparka with Rowe are the ones reviewing this with the contractor's application.
Okay. I guess what prompts this question is the confidential correspondence that we received recently, and the subject of it, where the checking of some work was a little sloppy and it may be kind of expensive. So I think most of you, if you've opened that envelope, know what I'm talking about. So just checking, that's all.
Dave, will we be reimbursed this money through USDA?
Yeah, all of this has to go get submitted to USDA. Once it's submitted to USDA, then we get funds pushed to us.
So when we're coding this, then we should be coding this to a receivable like we talked with Cindy Scott?
Yes, so this is gonna then generate a push from USDA to us. And once we get that, that's when we pay Team Elmer's. So it's like phase one when we were making those partial progress payments.
Okay, so we're not going to pay it up front. We're going to wait till we get the money from USDA.
That is correct.
So then we can just expense it in that manner. Okay.
Any other comments?
Has any word on the easement, Dave?
I don't have an update on that, no.
Okay. Well, and where are they at with the railroad track crossing? Do you have any update on that?
It's under. It's under. Yeah.
Cool. I seen them starting it, but I didn't know they completed it.
Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the partial payment to Team Elmer's associated with phase 2 in the amount of $320,143.62.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Byer. Roll call?
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Resolution and ordinances. Resolution 2020-08, beach and water sports vendor fees.
All right, so you're going to see Resolution 2020-08 and 2020-09, very similar. So what this distinguishes is between the beach and water sport vendor license for a motorized is obviously a different operation than non-motorized. And so 2020-08 being the motorized is, commands higher fees than the non-motorized. And so that was the initial intent of the beach and water sports vendor ordinance. And so we had spoken last time, these are in the ordinance template to distinguish between a motorized and non-motorized fee.
Comments?
Did we not have a previous ordinance, approving the fees for the motorized?
So it was the same. So we just had a fee associated with the beach and water sport vendor license. 2020-08 is the distinguishing between motorized. 2020-09 is distinguishes between motorized and non-motorized.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is the previous resolution was just the one set of fees that didn't distinguish.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2020-08, establishing the fees for the water sport vendor license.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Resolution 2020-09 for beach and water sports vendor, non-motorized. Any other comments on that one?
Motion that we adopt resolution 22009 regarding beach and water sports vendor fees, non-motorized.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
good. Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Resolution 2020-10, public hearing for grant application on 22 June.
All right, so at the June 22nd meeting, we need to hold a public hearing. And the public hearing will be based on the intent to file applications for federal and state assistance for water system improvements. And now this is your alphabet soup here as far as the Michigan Department. It's Eagle. Okay, Eagle has a drinking water revolving fund, DWRF, the Rural Utility Service, or RUS, and everybody's familiar with ECWAG, the Emergency and Imminent Community Water Assistance Grants. And so to be able to apply for those, it requires public hearings, and we are scheduling the notices that will be in the paper associated with the public hearing. And so this is the resolution to schedule that hearing for June 22nd.
Comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a
that we-
motion that we approve resolution 2020-10 for the public hearing on Monday, June 22nd, 2020 at 7 o'clock for the application for grants.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Resignation from the library.
All right, so Barbara Hamilton Herc, she provided a resignation letter and she will not be coming back to work when the library opens. So I was hoping to have the board accept her resignation.
Anybody have comments for that?
Sorry to hear that.
I gather from her letter that she thinks the library is opening too quickly. Do I have that right?
I know
Dave?
she has a immediate family that is immunocompromised, and so she doesn't want to be dealing with the public and have the risk of bringing something back.
Okay. Okay.
That's a shame. I feel bad for her situation. I feel bad for the library. It's a loss. I'm sorry this had to happen.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept with regrets the resignation of the library assistant named.
Support.
Barbara Hamilton here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Support.
you.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Mr. Weed. Roll call?
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer. Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire.
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Thank you for your service to us, Barbara. Appreciate it. Election Commission appointment.
All right, so I don't want to steal John's thunder here. He asked that this get put on the agenda for the election commission appointment.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate the email there, in reviewing the Charter Township Act, it requires the Township Election Commission be composed of the Township Clerk and 2 trustees appointed by the Township Board. Currently, the Election Commission is made up of the Township Clerk, 1 trustee, and the Township Supervisor, which I think is reasonably to assume that it's a holdover from when Mr. Weed was a trustee. So in order to comply with the Charter Township Act, the board needs to appoint a trustee to replace Township Supervisor.
We had gone over this back in 2016, I believe, and it was allowed for the supervisor to be on it, but I have no firm attachment to the job, so it makes no difference to me.
I recall going over it in 2018, and I have no knowledge of the supervisor being acceptable on there. Again, I'm just reading the statute or the act for what it says. But if you have information to the contrary, I'd be interested in it.
Nope, I'll be out as a supervisor by November anyway, so it doesn't matter. So do we have volunteers for trustee?
I have a question. John, what is the function of this election commission? And how often does it meet? Does it cover both the August election and the November election, or do you need 2 different groups for the 2 different elections? Who is your trustee that you now have?
So
Questions?
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
Oh, I am, but that's several questions all wrapped up into one. But
I'll do my best. It's a standing committee. It meets as often as needed, but at least once per election. So it's a continuous committee, doesn't change by election, and it meets at least once per election cycle. Currently, Mr. Cummings is the trustee representative to the Election Commission, and its function is to approve election inspectors, to see to it that the election has suitable equipment and supplies. A lot of those functions get delegated to the clerk, but then another one is the testing, preliminary testing, and public accuracy testing of the ballots to demonstrate that the the ballots and our equipment, the program within the equipment is operating correctly, and there's some proofs that are demonstrated. We do it internally, and then we demonstrate one to the public. The ballot printing, that's taken care of by the county, but so supplies, the equipment, the proofing of the equipment, and then appointment of the election inspectors and the chair people. If we ever change the precinct, they would need to go through the election commission. This year, looking at starting up an absent voter counting board, that's an action taken by the election commission.
Okay. I have one more question. What is the date in August when the primary, the Michigan Direct primary is being held? What's the date?
August 4th.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I was interested until that last answer. I have a camping vacation plan for the first week of August, so I was interested, but I don't want to get involved if I can't be there. So
for what it's worth, the meetings of the election commission have to happen sometime before the election to appoint the workers. So it's like a week or two. I don't remember the time frame that needs to happen beforehand off the top of my head, but it is sometime before the election. And a quorum is two members, and there's even a stipulation where if only one member is present, that member can appoint someone as long as they're an elector of the township, registered voter, to fill that position. Never been necessary, but there are avenues.
Well, maybe another factor is that maybe you would like to have an election commission that you could stick with beyond 2020, and that would not include me. But that whole first week of August, from August 1, I'm not available. So, I'm obviously a little interested, but if somebody else is much more solid in this and doesn't have any conflicts, fine. Speak up. So. A lot of silence there.
Hey, John. So I'm already on the committee. Do you need me to reapply?
No. Nope.
All right. Very good.
Well, I'd be willing to work on that committee with you, John and Tim, if Mr. Byer's not able.
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Palmer as the other trustee on the committee.
Support.
All right, motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire.
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey.
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. 2020 summer newsletter.
Right. So what you have there is the draft of the 2020 summer newsletter, and typically what happens is they get folded in with the tax bills that are distributed by law by July 1st, Jamie?
Correct.
All right.
Any comments?
Aaron, is there a reason why there's a different format this time, one page and the names of board members are not there at the top. There seems to be no title at the top. There usually is Oscoda, Township, blah, 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 supervisor, treasurer, clerk, yada, yada. That is left off this time. And I'm thinking that it doesn't apply to me, but, this is a little bit of importance in an election year, like who are the trustees, who is the treasurer, who is the clerk, and so forth. Is there some reason why that's not there for the first time that I recall in 18 years?
I don't know. I'm not the one who put the newsletter together.
Okay. Would you have an objection if I made a motion that we revise the letter to include that information?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay. Therefore, I make the motion that we ask Tammy or whoever made that to find some room for a title block similar or exactly the same as we've always had in other newsletters. And that's my motion.
I'll support that.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. Mcguire.
I have a comment, not just if I know in the past there's been talk of, does anybody else have something? If we're looking to have a second page, I have information regarding the upcoming elections that could go on there if a second page is something that is being sought after. If not, then it doesn't need to go, but just for what it's worth.
Well, John, I think, my God, elections are very important. So, I mean, it's not going to cost us anything. It's the same one single piece of paper, but now we have something on the other side. And you're talking about information about the August primary. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd probably reference that there's a November election as well.
Sure.
So information about both.
Well, my motion would include that we go ahead with election information that the township clerk deems advisable, plus the title with the list of who the members are of the current board this summer. So, Jamie, you want? Go ahead.
Didn't our question go out to clerk and treasurer regarding input on what goes into the newsletter?
I don't know that.
But
if it did and they did not respond, well, let's spank them on the hands. But that's still pretty important information. So
I don't have a problem with the information going in there. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I don't know that. I can't answer you, but I don't know.
I know a lot of times in the past it has, so that's kind of clouding my memory, but I don't recall here recently. I'm looking through my emails right now, so I don't want to say emphatically that it didn't, but I don't recall. So I'm pretty sure it didn't.
Aaron, who would make that request to the treasurer and the clerk?
The executive secretary.
Okay. And the executive secretary is probably also the designer of the single page with no heading.
Yeah, I think the board members were added onto the header 2 years ago.
No, they've always been on there for every season for summer and winter.
Okay.
I keep a little collection because I'm a geek, okay? And I have almost every newsletter, like I said, in the past 18 years, and board members have always been on there. And for some of you, 5 of you that are running, I don't mean this is going to make or break your campaign, but it's helpful for people to know who's. It always amazes me how the general public sometimes has no clue who's the treasurer, who's a trustee, who's a supervisor, what's the difference between a supervisor and a superintendent, and on and on. This might help if we continue to put that at the top, so I don't see any harm in doing that. I don't see any harm in using the back of this instead of white paper and having some election information, and thus my motion.
And for clarification, I found the email. So to set the record straight, I do have an email from March speaking about the summer newsletter. So like I said, it's not crucial, but I know a lot of times, sometimes there's 2 pages and you're having to cut information to get a second page. Sometimes there's not enough and it's needed. So again, either way, I'll still be getting the information out in different avenues. Just occurred to me here tonight. I don't want to create more work for anybody. But if a second page is sought after, I've got information. If not, that's fine. And I apologize. You know, I did get an email. So whatever way we want to go, just trying to be helpful.
Well, I don't think you're creating more work for anybody. If that's the case, it's too much work and we can't make a change. Why in H do we have this presented to us each time, twice a year? If it's too much work to make some changes, then don't run it by us like we always do.
I don't know what point you're getting at with that comment there. It was put out. Does anybody have anything for it? Based on the information that was received back is how this was constructed.
I'm responding.
I don't think I don't have a problem with adding this information on there at all. You seem kind of going down the road like we have a problem with that. My only issue is that when the notice is put out, does anybody have anything for this? And then there's no response back. Then all of a sudden it becomes a problem that information wasn't added into it.
Sure. And again, I wasn't trying to make any problem. This is becoming more contentious than is necessary. So again, it doesn't matter to me either way. I have other avenues. So, and I want to make clear to especially the executive secretary, I very clearly received the email. I don't want any confusion there. So just trying to own it.
Yeah, I understand, John.
I want to say that too. I did receive the email. I didn't have any information to add, like a block from the treasurer this time, like I have in past. But the header's usually always the same. So that's never been like added or don't add it. So that's why I'm just saying that. I just want to clarify for the people, we have quite a few people still watching the meeting or listening in. We have picked a date for a refuse drop-off program. Is that correct? For September 12th? Okay. All right. And so are we going to, I had two calls today, people asking when they can get or how they can get their permit thing. Am I just to tell them until we open, then they can't get their permit? I guess they have time, obviously. So is that what you guys would like me to say when people call?
Go ahead, Dave.
So right now, and that's what it's stated on the newsletter there, is that we'll be doing the bulk refuse September 12th. So you'll be selling the permits on September 12th. Right now, it's unrealistic to be able to continue with that June 13th, just because we can't sell permits until we open the door, and then it would be June 13th until we have that refuse. So we're going to be going with obviously the June. We can sell permits starting June 4th when we open, and then as it's stated on here, September 12th is the second Saturday is when we'll be having that bulk refuse.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other comments on the newsletter? We have a motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call.
Mr. Gaskey.
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire.
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. Work session for water rate study.
All right, so I know everybody wants to book up their summer with dates associated with water rate studies and budget work sessions. And so I guess what I've been trying to do is kind of stay consistent with how we're putting the budget together. Right now, the capital improvement plan was introduced to the Planning Commission at their May 4th meeting, and had a good discussion with them. Next Monday will be when the Planning Commission, it will be proposed to approve the capital improvement plan next Monday, June 1st. At that point, we will be able to go through the CIP requests with the board, as well as the revenue projections. Obviously, revenue, it's really tough to set expenditures until we talk about revenue. So I would envision a June 24th meeting to talk about both the water rate study, as well as or the results of the water rate study, as well as the revenue and CIP items, kind of teeing up the budget work session. You'll see in there that it kind of flows through in July. You'll notice that I'm requesting the back-to-back with 2 days in a row, as far as July 29th and July 30th. Typically what happens there is when 2 days in a row, get all of the department heads together to be able to get their FaceTime within the board, talk about not only capital improvement requests, but the operating budgets, and then hopefully be able to culminate that with a more final discussion on August 26th, after we get all of the input from board members, department heads, as far as a 2021 budget. So that's kind of walking you through. I know it's two different action items and other there, but that kind of aligns with the 2020 budget process. I'm just trying to mimic that with the 2021 budget process. And you know, hopefully all of those will not be done over Zoom, where we can get together and have those discussions.
So you're talking you need the water rate study on June 24th and the budget work session on June 24th?
I'd like to do them back to back. I don't think that the water rate study will take more than, say, an hour or 90 minutes. Typically those budget work sessions go from 2 to 4. So I don't believe the water rate study would go the full 2 hours, I guess from 2 to 4. We could tee that up with a budget work session and combine that.
Any other comments? Okay, then what about the times?
2 p.m.
Okay, and that would be for which days? You said the 29th and 30th?
So June 24th, 2
I'm
to
sorry.
4, and then July 29th, July 30th, 2 to 4,
Got it.
and then at Wednesday, August 26th from 2 to 4.
Okay. I hate to say this, but I need you to repeat those again. So I got the first one. It's June 24th. Just the next one, July
29th,
29th, and August
July 30th.
29th and 30th.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And
And
then
then August.
26th.
Thank you. Okay, good. And we're looking for 2 to 4 on each of those days?
Correct.
Thank you. Just give me a moment.
It's also on your agenda, Tim, at the bottom.
Yes, but I'm looking at my calendar,
Oh,
not the
okay.
agenda right now. Thank you.
I know it's a large time commitment. That's why I'm trying to put it out there months in advance so that we can.
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, I know. We just got done with a budget. That means you start over with a budget. That's kind of how that goes. So.
Okay. Glad we're doing this in advance. Sometimes we don't get this much notice, so I can book this out. I consider those all reserved.
Do you need motions for those, Aaron?
Yes, I'm getting them in my calendar right now too. The August 26th conflicts with the Eagle Wordsmith coordination call.
Okay. Can we do Tuesday, the 25th?
That works for me.
Anybody else have any comments regarding these dates and times?
I think that works for me.
I'm okay.
That works for me.
Will you be able to attend the work session in August, Jim?
Yeah, as long as it's not the beginning of August. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we establish a work session for the water rate study and the financial advisor on Wednesday, June 24th at 2 o'clock at the library.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. We have a motion for the budget work sessions.
I'll make a motion that we schedule the budget work sessions for June 24th, July 29th, July 30th, and Tuesday, August 26th, all at 2 p.m. at the library.
25th.
I'm sorry, 25th.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Byer.
And the 25th is for which month?
August.
Very good. Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Mr. Byer? Yes.
yes. Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. All right, bill for the EIC furniture.
And I apologize, Jim, I did not get a copy to you. We got to figure something out that I can get things to you at the last minute.
Okay.
And I'm not saying don't purchase it. I'm just expressing concern because I know that we have the Artisan Hall building for sale, that we're trying to get rid of it. And so purchasing furniture and reimbursing Mr. Dickerson for it seems kind of silly to me, because we have a whole hospital full of furniture, or other buildings that might have furniture in it that they can utilize for the time being, until hopefully we can sell that building or not use it all anymore. I just feel like we've put enough money into that building. Why would we keep adding to it, I guess? So I just kind of wanted to run it past the board to see if anybody had any other, if they had concerns about it, or same concerns, or if they were okay with it or whatever. So I just thought I would bring it forward.
I don't know.
Having not seen the list of furniture, as Jamie alluded to, is it really specialized furniture, or is it basic stuff like, chairs and a long table, or what is it? Can someone give me an idea how many pieces of furniture and what type of furniture are we talking about?
It's listed here. It says 1 cherry wood colored sectional desk, 1 metal filing cabinet, 1 75-inch desk, and 1 bookshelf. And then further in his memo, he says he's going to purchase 2 desk chairs as well, and looking for a suitable conference table.
Yeah, I see that more as furniture for the EIC as opposed to the Artisan Hall. Their EIC is conducting their there to meet with developers and business people. It'd be nice if we had some decent furniture for them to sit down at to discuss various plans.
Well, it's going to be in the Artisan Hall, though, correct?
In the Artisan Hall until we sell it, then we'll move that furniture somewhere else for the EIC to use.
So since the EIC is contracted, why are we purchasing furniture for them?
It's my understanding that Todd is contracted, but we have a committee, right? We have an initiative here that there's a board that he reports to, and that is not contracted. So I would imagine that this initiative is not going to end at the end of Todd's contract.
That's fine, but we also have a library that they could meet at.
I'm only answering your question.
No, I know.
Not trying to be disagreeable.
And I appreciate that, but I'm just pointing out alternatives to buying furniture when I think that we have furniture available.
I understand that, but I responded to your question and you came back with yet another question, and I was like, that wasn't an acknowledgement for me. So I'm not trying to be combative.
Thank you for answering.
So is the furniture and awning acceptable for when we have developers come in to be presentable for them to sell the township, to create the desire for them to want to develop in Oscoda Township?
Honestly, my answer to that, Aaron, is I don't even know what furniture is over there. I mean, it was 5 years ago or 4 years ago that I was in Ann's old office. I don't even know if that furniture is still there. And I frankly don't even remember the furniture. So I don't know what furniture we're talking about or what's there to choose from.
Why don't we have Mr. Dickerson go out there and take a look at see what's out there?
We already did.
Oh,
They
yeah,
already did.
Okay.
And they weren't impressed with what was there. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, most of the better furniture's already been picked over. I mean, it's from the Air Force decades ago. And so, I mean, you got a pretty good deal on some used furniture, and obviously is going to the extent of purchasing it and moving it up here. So,
that furniture that's left out there has been picked over 2 or 3 times, maybe more. And that furniture has been there since when I got stationed here back in '66. And if it's been picked over 3 or 4 times, what's left is scrap. It's not worthwhile even looking at.
Well, I think if we're expecting Mr. Dickerson to sell Oscoda to developers and business people, we need to put on a respectable front. And I think he's found a pretty reasonable priced, decent looking furniture that would present a positive picture of Oscoda when he brings people in to talk about things going on in Oscoda Township. I mean, if I don't think you bring people in, you're trying to sell the township to developers and business people. You really want them sitting on crappy furniture that's been around since the 60s. I don't think so. So I think it's not a lot of money. I think what was it, $400? It sounds like pretty decent, nice wood furniture, and would present a positive view of Oscoda when people come in to visit with our economic improvement director.
Yeah, I have a question as well. What is the actual economic development group set up as? Is it merely a committee? Is it a department? Does it have its own budget?
It's a subcommittee, and when they don't have a budget, but when they need funds, they will put together the plan and present it to the board to ask for the funds.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, in an ad hoc way. Okay, fair enough. That's good to know. Well, my next thought here would be, if someone found $400 worth of furniture that they're happy with, and I wouldn't say that Todd has bad taste. I would say he has good taste. Just from what he's been able to do for us so far, I would say that $400 is probably going to get us a lot of value. Furniture is usually very expensive, and it doesn't sound like a significant investment for us to be making here.
No, and I think when you're talking about office furniture, the type that's mentioned here, you could easily spend $4,000 and
I
up.
thought exactly. Yeah.
So, and I know from personal experience that is a fact. And so to be able to get a couple of wood desks and some cabinets and all that for $400 is a pretty good deal. To present a positive face on Oscoda when people come in here to see what we have to offer.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for your input.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments or a motion?
Yeah, I move that we reimburse Mr. Dickinson for his for the furniture that he has found for the $400 in the amount of $400.
Or
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Gaskey. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Gaskey,
yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed. I need to request input from the board regarding boat launch fees. It just occurred to me regarding our action that we took regarding boat launch fees. How does the board want to approach when we start taking boat launch fees again?
What did the executive orders tell us about that?
It doesn't tell us anything about that. It's
Great.
we had made the decision to not take the boat launch fees during this time because of the potential of cross-contamination to the employees.
Right.
So.
Well, that's my question. It's like, what is the, okay, so what is that? Where are we at today with the executive orders? The cross-contamination is still a concern if the executive orders are pushing out the lockdown to the middle of June. So are you suggesting, I mean, it seems to me we're having to delay the collection of boat fees.
Right, we
Right.
stop. We stop. Go ahead.
Tim, if you would have went through Footsite Park on Saturday and Sunday and Monday morning, there was no stay-at-home order there. There was 75 to 100 boats in there every day.
I understand.
And they're just, I think we should start charging. I know I sent my money in. Jamie, did you get it?
I did get it. I got it today. I'll either drop your thing off for you or I'll put it in the mail.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But compared to Benetton Lake, Footsite's crazy. Benetton Lake, yeah, it's being used. I've been using it, but I think we should lift them, really.
My view is once the township employees go back to work and we're open to the public, then we start do it.
I agree.
properly with the boat
I
launches.
agree. If we just happens the 29th, that's when we should start enforcing them again.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Well, Mr. Nordine mentioned about when we open up to the public, and that won't be until the 5th. So do we want to start
I say
taking
when
them?
the employees come back to work, Aaron,
Okay, so you want to start taking fees again the 29th?
I would.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Agree.
I agree.
Yep. I agree.
All right, I make a motion. We resume boat launch fees on May 29th.
Support.
Oh, sorry.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Ms. Mcguire. Roll call?
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion's passed.
Aaron, would we need a separate motion for the discussion that we had last week about the cemetery and going back to the regular protocol when we all come back to work also, or is that just assumed?
No, because that motion stated that as long as the COVID situation was going on, that we would delay it. But since her orders pertaining to us expire on the 29th, then it would all go back to normal on the 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are now into our public comment period. There is a 4-minute time limit. As of right now, when you start talking, please introduce yourself. But as of right now, I'm going to unmute Al Epsitis. If Al, you can unmute yourself. We have one question in the chat here that said that they would like to know if seasonal campers at Old Orchard Park are having the option for a full refund if they choose.
I believe the order that we said was going to be a partial refund of time lost.
Yeah, so there's 3 options. There's the extend the stay past the normal. There's a credit towards next year or a refund of a prorated refund of the days lost.
Okay, and she also said that some of them don't stay to the end. I don't know what that means.
I'm interpreting that to mean some people don't stay the entire season. So to extend it doesn't give them anything.
But
there's
what's
2 other options, though. The one
Correct.
was,
Agreed. And all I'm doing is interpreting the chat.
the extension also included another option that you could give them time for next year. Am I right on that? That's what I thought I heard.
Yeah, credit toward next year.
Yeah.
I see.
I don't think we should give them a full refund. I mean, what's happening is not our fault. I mean, you know, and I know some people would take the easy way and say, well, it's Gretchen Whitmer's fault. Well, no, it's
not
the
hers either.
virus.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is not one political office holder's fault. I mean, this whole worldwide situation is behind it. I'm not trying to talk about the president or a governor and or this township. I mean, I just don't think a full refund is necessary.
Okay. Anybody else who's online electronically, there is a little place where you can raise your hand. If you have a comment you want to make, I will unmute telephone people. Is there anybody on the telephone who has comments?
Yes, I do. My name's Roger Beamer.
All right, go ahead.
I just got one question. On the seasonals, if we are unable to be this time, are we able to stay with the same lots we have next year? Or are we going to have to go through a whole drawing again? And you know as well as I do, the COVID won't be gone by then. It's still going to be around until they get a vaccine. What are we going to do in that aspect? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else on the phone with comments? I've got one here who's an iPhone user. All right, go ahead, iPhone user. You did click unmute. Clicking it again.
Okay. I was curious. I seen Tawas is open, and that's run by the city, which is same as the county, right? And they have the same restrictions and everything else like that. I have two questions actually. And then the state parks are going back. We're opening on June 3rd. How come they can be there working when Old Orchard can't?
What's your name?
Brian Tunk. I'm sorry.
All right. Did you have anything else?
That was my two statements. I was just curious about. I haven't seen anything about those.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have anything? K&M Clark.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Our only question is about getting updated if the park is going to be open by June 22nd, because if not, we'd like to make reservations somewhere else to go camping. We are seasonals, but you know, the longer we wait to make a reservation somewhere else, if they're not going to be open, is going to be limited. So our question is, how much guarantee are we going to have that you're going to be open by June 22nd?
All right.
Could I ask for your name, please?
Marcia Clark.
Thank you very much. Only for minute keeping purposes. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
No, that was just the question I have.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Any others that have public comment on the list here? I do have one showing up on the chat. But if there's anybody else online here. All right. Hearing none. Then we'll go to the one in chat from Kat. It was put on here privately. I wish people could see these screens because I don't think they show up on my share screen thing. Kat, can you let me know your last name? Oh, Ed Angel's Day is what the name is. Question is, do you have a date for the seasonal trade lottery and boat dock lottery? Also, will the playgrounds and bathhouses be accessible? We'll be talking more about these public comments here after we're done getting them. And then Gabriel Sandifer says, is the park going to full price for the boat docks? All right. So let's go into board comment now. Let's start off regarding some of this comments here on Old Orchard Park. So Ryan asked about the Tawas Campground. The Tawas Campground has been open because it is only open for the people who live there year round. And since that's their homes, they're required to keep it open for their livelihood. But it was not open until, or it was not open to temporary people. I don't know when they're opening that up for temporary people or if they just did or what, but that's the reason why there were still operations going on there. State parks, I didn't think were opening that early. I thought they were going to be 22nd of June. Is that right, Dave?
My most recent update from the DNR is the overnight campgrounds will not open until June 22nd. And I checked the website this morning. So unless it's changed this afternoon, they were up against the same thing where they could not bring employees back until after the 28th, meaning that they need time to be able to clean up the campgrounds so that they can have overnight campers and in preparation for that.
Okay, and then Roger Beamer had asked about the seasonal for next year. Can you answer that one, Al?
For the drawing, I think he's speaking about having 300 people in an auditorium at the same time. I guess that will depend on if we can have the restrictions lifted of more than 10 people, gathering. If not, we will have to come up with some other idea.
And weren't you working on a different method for bidding rather than in person?
Yeah, we had a couple ideas, but it didn't seem to be very popular with many of the campers at that time. And that was something to do with online or having it done online.
Can you re-engage again about that, since this kind of situation is making in-person stuff a little more difficult?
Yeah, we were going to have everybody fill the paperwork just like they do any other time. However, there was going to be it filmed with us performing the drawing live, and you had to tune in on a YouTube channel. I mean, we could do it live YouTube, and then do the drawing that way. That didn't. A lot of people didn't seem to care for that. But seeing the situation we're in now, that may be something we have to do. That's something that we're going to have to talk about.
Okay. And then regarding the updates for the opening on June 22nd.
We will provide the openings, and we've been trying to give updates as much as we can. However, this is such a dynamic, fluid, ongoing. It seems like it changes constantly. So, you go to put something out, and the next day something changes, and you're not quite sure if you should put that out, and then it changes again. So, we will do our best to make sure we update everybody when we get the information as quickly as we can.
Okay. And then we had the item from Angels Day about the date for the seasonal trade lottery and boat dock lottery.
We have not determined that date yet. I'm not sure if we're going to. I will speak with my staff and see how we're going to handle that and get back with the with people at that in a post.
Okay.
At a later date.
And then will the playgrounds and bathhouses be accessible?
Well, everything will be according to the order. If it's been lifted at that time, then we can offer those facilities. But if it has not, then they will not be available.
Okay.
It's just like everybody else having to follow their facilities with the bathrooms and the restrooms. If we can open them at that time, heck, we'll do it. We're excited to get back. We're excited to have everybody back.
All right. And then we had from Gabriel about the full price for the boat docks.
We will look at that, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was a good question.
It was.
All right. Board members for comments.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Jamie. I just wanted to comment and say that given the extremely volatile circumstances here that the COVID-19 has been throwing at us, and the landscape from not just federal guidelines for everything, for all kinds of travel to our own state mandates, I think that this township has done a phenomenal job of keeping everyone apprised of what's going on, and in an extremely timely manner, to the point where, like everyone has said on this call, Al mentioned it, we're looking at things that are constantly changing, and we've even had special meetings. I think we've done a great job to keep everybody apprised and informed. So I think it's just a matter of everyone needs to, continue to listen and hear are the updates. And I'm glad everyone's interested in getting back, especially Old Orchard. But I think we've done a really good job. No one's dragged any heels here that I can see.
Cool, thank you. Any other board members with comments?
Just a correction. I was looking at the bottom of one sheet and should have flipped it over for the totals for the check ride. Actually, the one total instead of $6,000 should have been $44,212.54.
Okay, so you said $44,012.54
For the one check run, correct?
for prepaids, right? Or is that a different line item?
Yeah, that's prepaid,
That's
521.
the prepaids, yep, through 5/21 that we've already paid. And then the other total is the one I gave you before.
$28,337.04.
Correct. That's what's on my list.
Okay, since these numbers have changed, then let's do another vote on our
Consent
payment
agenda?
of bills.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we correct. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the corrected information.
Support. Support.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire, support by Mr. Byer. Roll call.
Ms. Mcguire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Nordine, yes. Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Gaskey,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes. Any other board member comments? All right, I will just say thanks to all the Old Orchard Park people who attend these meetings. I know you're probably making up most of our viewer base during our live meetings, so I appreciate that, your involvement in this. The other thing is I just received a notice that Governor Whitmer extends her state of emergency regarding severe weather and flooding to Iosco County. And that is Executive Order 2020-105.
Aaron, do you know of any, I thought I saw something somewhere that said that they were encouraging people in Iosco County to go to the website and register if they've had flooding issues. Do you know that website by any chance?
I do not.
Hold on.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, is that a bad one? Homeowners, okay. The information. I got an email attachment from Ed Rohn this afternoon, but for some reason my Word does not, like, he says it's a Word doc. It's not opening up very well. I can read, I can say, okay, it is, please see attached. This is required webinar. Okay, below is a link for homeowners and businesses to self-report storm damage. This link will put the information directly into the state's ARC GIS system for tabulating damage assessment information. The counties of Aranac and Iosco have each declared a local state of emergency and have submitted a request for a governor's emergency disaster declaration and state assistance. Damage assessments are ongoing at this time. And to aid us in assuring we have accurate assessments of all damage, the state of Michigan has provided a damage assessment reporting form. And it says homeowners and business owners in Aranac and Iosco should visit https://arc.arc.is/10AB1J. I'm going to attempt to get there and post it in the chat here. If it brings up, if it successfully comes through. Okay, here we go. Should see something in the chat for the link.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Is that something we might want to put on the Facebook page or the web page?
I'm going to send this out to the board members so they have this. Good afternoon.
Yeah, we can put this out on those pages.
I'm going to send this to the board members. Just note, you're going to see a link. When you actually click on it, it comes up with the one I put in the chat. So it kind of gives you a different below and attached. It's a final destinations that's different than the link listed. So everybody should have that. I got Tammy on there. We can try to get it out on the website
And Facebook.
and Facebook.
And Iosco County, I guess, has already posted it on their website also. All right, any other comments? Okay, well, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mcguire. We're adjourned. Thanks for joining. And here we have
Thank
Doug Moen sitting around a campfire. He's in a meeting around a campfire.